Hey there, Lead the Team Nation. Welcome back. I've got a fun one in store for you today with Bill Canady, who is CEO of OTC Industrial Technologies. Now, if you're not familiar with OTC, they were established in 1963, and they're one of the largest industrial distributors and service providers in the United States. Now, Bill directs an organization with over 30 operating companies. That's right, 30 operating companies, $1 billion in annual sales, 2,000 plus employees, and over 70 sites. And during his tenure, OTC has grown revenues by more than 43% and earnings over 78%. Now, Bill has over 30 years of experience as a global business executive in a variety of industries and markets focused on industrial and consumer products and services. He's led numerous organizations through their most critical challenges and opportunities, often in complicated regulatory, investor, and media environments. So we're going to dig into that today. He's actually developed a set of tools and techniques to grow multi-billion-dollar companies, and he's even created the Profitable Growth Operating System, also known as the PGOS, to help owners and operators around the world profitably grow their business. And by the way, he graduated summa cum laude from Elmhurst University with a Bachelor of Science in Business Administration and received an MBA from the University of Chicago, the Booth School of Business. And he's also a proud veteran of the United States Navy. Bill, welcome to Lead the Team, sir.
Great, Ben. It's great to be here. Thank you so much.
So for those of you not watching on video, you're listening, Bill has the coolest setup, and you will see a spectacular glass structure behind him. And if you're wondering about that, we were just talking about Venice Murano glass. Man, that's great. And so that has traveled the world with you wherever you go. You moved. You always take this glass sculpture.
Yeah, that's right. You know, about 20 years ago, my wife and kids and I, we took a vacation in Italy. We wound up in Venice, and if you've ever been there, one of the tours they offer is go to Murano, and we went over there and they let our kids make their own glass sculptures out of it. It was the greatest sales mechanism I've ever seen in my life. And they march you into this room and you look at this wall of these beautiful sculptures in glass, and that was one of them. And so the kids kind of liked it, and we've called it the family flame, and it's kind of followed us everywhere through. Yeah. We've moved 9 times in my career. Wow. So it seems to have made every one of them.
Yeah, no, that's cool. I love having those. I mean, it's one thing to have family quote heirlooms, but it's another where, you know, you've got something that you can have in your household that reminds you and your family of a great trip and travel. And, you know, we have some things like that. It always reminds us of that. And I don't know about you, but I feel like our family trips that we've taken are usually some of our best memories.
Yeah, no question. It's funny. You think of all the things we've all had tremendous success, and we've just been so blessed. But it's the events together. It's getting together and doing something is what we really remember. It's not your car, did you buy something? It's spending time, the most precious gift we have with each other.
Love that. A great reminder for leaders who are busy people to take the time to spend it with your families and your teams and create those events where you can go out together. Now, I want to dive into this because what is the OTC turnaround story?
Yeah, it's a great story, and it's really all about the people. The business has been around since the 60s. Just an absolutely outstanding business. It was founded by the Darrow family, and then about 10 or 15 years ago, Phil Darrow, who was the son of the founder, sold the business into private equity, right? And you know, if you look at the journey of private equity, basically what has happened historically is they would buy low and sell high. So it went through 3 iterations, and then Genstar bought it in 19. And Genstar is the company that currently owns it. And you know, I've worked with a lot of different organizations, and I can say without reservation, they're the finest ones I've ever been associated with. And they do a lot of great things, but the thing that really resonates with me is they bet on people and teams, right? They want the leadership to have its strategy, come in and see if you can execute it. And so when I got here, you know, the business was going through a pretty tough time. I started August 9th, will be 2 years this year. And timing was just wonderful. We're all going through a pandemic, which sounds horrible, but for distribution thrives in high inflationary environments, right? We have almost no pricing power. And so all we get to do is pass our pricing through. Excuse me. And so we have a few things that are going for us that allow us to go out and capture that price. So the first is we only partner with the top brands in the industry. So we have 4 segments: pumps, air, finishing, and automation, really. And in each one of those pieces, in pumps, we're the world's largest pump distributor for Flowserve. If you look at it in the air side, Atlas Copco, one of the world's largest manufacturer of compressors, we're their largest, right? You look at finishing, same thing. And then finally with automation, SMC, we're the largest. So if you're going to come in and buy these types of products, you're most likely going to do business with us. So that we had that going with us. The second is our footprint. We cover most of the United States, but there's still a lot of spaces out there that we're not. That gives us opportunity for organic growth.
Okay.
Third piece, and this is the piece I love more than anything else, is the reoccurring revenue stream, right? The parts and service. And we have over 1,000 service trucks and folks out there every day, keeping our customers up and going, and really keeping them keeping them in business. And we love pumps, but hardly anyone buys a pump because they're cool. They buy it because it keeps their business up and going. So we're there when they need it, when it breaks.
So Bill, for the listeners, where would they see one of your pumps typically?
Well, we're kind of in that infrastructure piece where no one ever sees anything of our stuff, right? If you're in a manufacturing plant. So the other day, I was up at Lear outside of Detroit in Michigan. Lear makes and paints all the grills for Cadillac and all these other things. So we're standing there. All these grills are going through a paint booth. It's our equipment that we installed and programmed and put in that paints all that kind of stuff. So it's kind of the backbone of America is where we make our living.
Yeah. So people that are listening, I guess your day is being touched by one of the OTC products, but you don't necessarily see it because you guys are in between. And there's it sounds like a great place to be from an economic standpoint, like you say, because the wheels of progress keep turning and you need to have the infrastructure to do that. And you guys have established that over time. And so what was the secret to the big turnaround? Were you able to hit these kinds of numbers?
Yeah, it was a couple of things, right? So the first piece, we came in and we did a very simple 4-step process. So the first step in the process, we had to get a goal. What did we want to be when we grew up? And we picked organically to get to $1 billion. It's not, $1 billion is kind of a cool number and everything, but very few people actually get excited about a number, right? But we needed something to aim at. Okay. The second step in that process was we had to pick a strategy based on what we had already, right? We weren't in the manufacturing airplane businesses, right? We're not restaurants. It was what we had. It was our core. What is the strategy that will achieve that $1 billion? Second piece, how do we structure ourselves? What do we got to change in order to go deliver that strategy? And the final piece was very simple. What's the tactics or the action plans that it would take for us to go execute that? So we came in August. By December 16th, we had it laid out. And the most important part it wasn't my vision or strategy. It was the teams, right? They came up with it. So they owned it. All I helped them do was get through the process. And at the end of it, we wanted to be $1 billion. We wanted to be number 1 or 2 in everything that we did. And we were going to take and grow ourselves across the United States. And that's exactly what we started doing. It took us 100 days. And by January 1, we got control of ourselves. We got command of the business and started making moves pretty quick.
That's awesome. And you make it sound so simple, but you increased sales 43% in 100 days?
No. That was to get the plan out going, right?
Okay,
the 2 years. Yeah. So that was just to get the plan. So when I got here, the business, it was a unique time. We're in the middle of a pandemic. Be kind to people. You don't have any idea what they're going through.
To take over something that you're like, okay, you got because you're figuring out your business in an environment where there's a lot of other external factors. So you're moving internal and external without necessarily knowing where the external world's going to end up.
That's exactly right.
You're
And
placing
for
bets.
us, it was kind of simple, actually. We were experiencing, and if most people, we're all inflation. I mean, heck, we go out today and hamburgers are $20, right? It's out of control. We had experienced, on average, that year about 10.5% price inflation. People prices coming to us, right? Our costs were going up.
So what are your main costs coming in that went up 10%? Or what were the main pieces that were being hit by inflation?
Is everything. So we sell, believe it or not, 8 million different SKUs, which is way too many to sell, right? We really probably need to be selling about 200, but that's where 200,000. That's where we started at. Wow. Motors, these little electric motors that drive everything out there, were up 58%. 58% that year, if you can believe that. And so we had everything from motors to compressors. Compressors were coming in. We got 5 or 6 price increases alone that year. Our problem was not the price increases, because remember, these are products that are out there and people have to buy. If you're going to be manufacturing something, you're buying these products.
They need them, right?
We couldn't get our price increases through. Our systems were a mess. These 30 operating companies were not communicating. The systems didn't exist, and we weren't facing it. And so with so many SKUs, so many different items to do out there, we were just failing to pass it along. So we came in, started in August. In October, we kind of had command of the numbers. We knew what was going on, and it was really a failure to pass price increases to start with. And we were just very heavy-handed. We raised everything as fast as we could. We were behind all of our competitors. Now, what that had done was gave us a little bit of breathing room. We had to get sophisticated with it, but the folks who were leading it before I got here, and they were all wonderful people, had made a decision to cut the head count that we had in the business, right? What do? Your business, your profit's going down, your costs are too much, you make cuts. I made a different bet. And I had, told our Genstar, our great partners, I said, look, we're not going to cut our way to glory. We're going to have to grow our way out of this. And we're a tribal knowledge company. And what that means is we didn't have the systems in place to run process. It was people that did. We had a tribe. And when they did the layoff, unfortunately, the tribe walked out the door, and we had no idea how to put price increases in. We had no idea how to ship products. We had no idea to place orders. All the internal folks had kind of gone away. I'm exaggerating a little bit for effect, but it doesn't take a lot of key people gone before you're in trouble. So we went and did 2 things, right? We immediately started raising our pricing. The second thing we did was we started hiring people as fast as we could, right? And I can't say enough about our partners in Genstar letting us to do it. So by the end of the year, we had hired a couple hundred people, and we had spent over $30 million in systems, processes, technology, and almost none of it had an impact, right? You got to get it in, you got to get it going. So we were very heavy-handed to begin with, and that allowed us to give us a little breathing room. Given what inflation was doing, given what was happening out there, the market would take rapid and aggressive price increases. So we made our way to December. We certainly didn't have everyone that we needed, but we had enough pricing, and so we knew what we had to do as we went into January.
So you made a $30 million investment as an organization.
In 90
That was a big bet during a pandemic.
That's right.
And so on the outside, I'm assuming you were putting forth a leadership persona of, this is the right thing to do for business. It's going to pay off. What was going on inside when you were sitting in your chair next to that awesome Murano Italian glass sculpture?
Well, just as you would suspect, we knew we were doing the right things, but you're still scared to death, right? A lot of people do right things and it doesn't work out. Yeah. We communicated with the team all the time. I went on the road. We've got over 70 locations, a couple thousand people. And we went out, we just told the story. Here's where we are, right? And people would say, you don't understand. I understand exactly what's happening. But if we don't make these changes, right, we're not out of business, but we can see the crash site from where we're sitting right now. We have time to change the trajectory and make this company as great as it could be. I mean, it's a 60-plus-year-old company. We're standing on the shoulders of giants. Let's go do the right thing. And people bought into it. They understood we were very open. We shared exactly where we were. Our vendors were upset at us. Our folks were upset at us. We just went and said, here's our plan. Here's what we're going to go do. And here's the key point, right? The folks owned it and they went and did it.
Wow. The folks owned it and they went and did it. So it's one, I think for the leaders to listen, okay, so there's a lot of things going on in here. One, you cast a bold vision and you got the resources, but nothing happens if people aren't bought into it. So it's a lot of locations. When you go and you talk to these people who've been working for a company that's been around for so long, they've seen a lot of changes, and why didn't they just say, okay, here's another CEO. He's coming to talk to us again about how it's all going to be fine and we need to do all these changes and he wants to learn all these new systems. What was your thinking as a leader of how is it going to be different for them this time? How am I going to communicate with us so they can get on board?
Yeah, that's a really great question. I found, to use a military analogy, I'm an old Navy guy, it's my job to pick the hill we're going to take, right? So we made a decision as a leadership team, we were going to grow this business. And that team, so I said, what is the hill, right? And we came up with the number itself. Once we had made those decisions, the team had to figure out how to go do it, right? Because as we, sit and doing whatever we're doing, I'm here in my home office, and as many of our folks were, there's no way I could hope to tell them what to go do, right?
Yeah,
they knew
you guys do A, B, C, D, and you're going to grow 43%. It's not going to happen from the CEO's office.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
We picked our goal. We picked our strategy. I think the biggest thing we did that the team saw was we reorganized ourselves in a way to go execute that strategy. All 30 companies were operating independently and not communicating. We worked through it. We organized ourselves into 4 verticals. And I'll give you everything's an acronym for us, right? So PMT, Pump Motor Technologies, ASG, Air Supply Group, FDF, Finishing, Dispensing, Filtration, and the last one we call IPG, Industrial Products Group, which is primarily automation, but it has some other little companies in there as well. So we organized ourselves. We put 4 presidents over each one of those and then worked with them to get a very clean vision of what they were going to go do. Now, our plane is flying, right? But it's got problems. We need to change the engines. We got to put wheels on it. It needs a paint job, all this stuff. But our plane is flying. So we really worked on a lot of things like progress, not perfection. Let's just try to move forward, right? I know we don't have everything, but let's do the right thing, take a couple of steps, figure out where we are, and then go from there. The other thing that we kept, I said, look, guys, we cannot fall out of a basement. Let's just try, right? We'll move forward. And so it was that kind of thing. And then I think the most important thing was just getting out there, meeting with the people. It was the height of the pandemic. People were surprised I would show up. I'd get on a plane. There was no one on a plane, right? I get on a plane. I'd fly out there and I'd come and I say, listen, we just need your help, right? Not everyone chose to go with us. We understood that. And some of them had very clear vision. I said, look, maybe this isn't the company for you anymore, right? We're going this direction. We need you to get on board quickly. And people rallied around it.
Why are you so fired up? You're so excited. You're getting on a plane when no one else, the pandemic, you're flying to all these places. Like, what is right with you or what is wrong with you to be so excited? What's getting you up to go do this?
I could see it, right? It's not my first rodeo. We've done a lot of different businesses at this point, and it was so obvious to me that we had all the right ingredients, right? We had the best products out there. If you were going to buy those products, you had to buy them from us, right? We needed our teams back in place and work. We didn't have to have perfection. We needed all these systems, but we weren't going to get them overnight. We had an ownership structure that was willing to invest in the company. And we had leaders who cared and wanted to be a part of it. How can you not win with that?
Well, So you saw a vision that you were excited about.
That's
Now,
right.
I want to keep going with the story, but let's dial back early, Bill. When did you realize that? I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you strike me as someone who likes to cast a vision and you rally the troops and go after it based on your background. When's the earliest time in your life, even when you were a kid, that you figured out, hey, this is something I can do?
Wow, what an interesting question. I grew up, I tell people this all the time, but it's true. I grew up dirt poor, right? I grew up in North Carolina in a double wide trailer at the end of a dead end dirt road, right? When I graduated high school, my way off the farm was to join the Navy. So I enlisted, got out, went, traveled around the world, came back, went and got my college that you mentioned earlier. Like I was very blessed, right? I had a lot of great opportunities and I took advantage of them. But early on, I realized a couple of things about myself. So I love playing sports, but you could time me with a calendar, right? It was there was no way I was going anywhere with that. So, in high school, I ran for my student body president and I won it because I liked, leading and getting out there in front of it. And I could see the vision of where I was going. But like everyone else, I needed opportunity. I needed to take advantage of it. And that's what's great about this country, right? If you want to achieve something, you can do it here. And so I felt that way. And I went out there and I did everything I could to make it happen, right? So I wasn't always perfect or anything like that. But with that spirit and investing in myself, investing in others, I've been able to put together a career that's really worked out very well. I think there's at least 15 people out there today who are sitting CEOs or presidents who I put them in those roles, right? At some point in their career, I helped them go through that. Now they did all the work themselves, but I know I had some small part of that. So
that's got to be
that kind
very
of stuff
gratifying.
that makes a difference.
That's got to be really gratifying to see that. To me, that's leadership legacy.
I think so. I was always hungry, and I think the thing that makes the difference, right, is persistence. There's a lot of geniuses out there. I make the joke that there's a lot of PhDs, asking if you'd like fries with whatever you're getting. It takes more than just education. It takes more than it's got that willingness to get up, go make something happen, and then tomorrow get up and do it again. Right on the best of days and the worst of days, the sun always sets.
Thinking back to the day when you're, in your trailer in North Carolina and then eventually running for student body president and whatnot, was there a role model or a book or a song, or was there anything that helped shift your vision to what was possible on a bigger level?
Yeah, absolutely. For myself, the only reason I sit in the position I do today is people took a chance on me, right? And it was up to me to what I was going to do with that. It took both of us. Someone had to give me an opportunity, and two, I had to go execute on that opportunity. But I remember my earliest days. So we grew up in southeastern North Carolina, and we like to hunt and fish and do all this stuff. And in the process of hunting as a kid, like as an early teenage kid, I was out one day, and we used to hunt on the base there, the military base called Camp Lejeune. And so I'm walking down this trail, and I come across this guy, and he introduces himself. His name was Al, and I was Bill. It turns out he was the commander of Camp Lejeune, Al Gray, who later became the commandant of the Marine Corps, right? And so Al and I became buddies. I didn't know who he was, and I was no one. So, but he liked me. And he had grew up poor, and he told me about joining as an enlisted guy and how he had made it all the way up. At that time, he was a general over Camp Lejeune, but nothing as compared to what he became. And so people like that inspired me to go on and realize I could do it as well, right? And so things like that made a big difference to me. And there's been a tremendous amount of people who have taken chances on me. And, I hope I haven't let them down, but I've done the best I can with what I have.
You never know when a moment like that is going to be transformational. And it sounded like that hunting trip and that moment ended up being an extremely high impact acceleration point for you. And we didn't even realize it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Right. And it inspired me. Later, I joined the Navy and got myself out there. Right. We're all given opportunities. It's what we do with them that makes the difference. Right. But the key to remember is you can't do any of it by yourself. It's you and the team, and it's who you just decide to surround yourself with at the end of the day that's going to make all the difference.
So let's fast forward a little bit here. You've you've had, a long career, and you're doing great with OTC, and you've got your operating system. Now, I grew up. I worked for over a decade for Honeywell. And they had their HOS, Honeywell operating system, and it, I mean, it was pretty much gospel the way we ran the business in that. And leaders have taken that, and leaders that started there and gone, and they go to work for different companies. And this operating system has really been a way that they've even able to run their own businesses. And I think it's really interesting that over time you've created your own operating system, and now you've got a book coming out. And so I'd love for you to talk about why you decided to create your own operating system. Explain that to us. Because I think it's really interesting for a leader to have that, because it gives you something to take and impart to others. But I love to hear your perspective on that, and then get into what's at the heart of the book.
Yeah, absolutely. So, like you, I came through some big corporations, and when I was at IDEX, I was part of a team that helped design its operating system, right? And the keys on my operating system, I think, are pretty similar to a lot of them out there, right? There's talent, there's strategy, there's lean, there's acquisitions, and then there's segmentation, or 80-20. So those are the five key pieces of it. But really, my operation systems is the stuff that I've seen and been part of over my 30-year career. So I didn't come up with lean or anything like that. We all know the story of lean if you've been at Honeywell, for sure, right? And but the pieces that I've done, I put together and then modify them to work in my situations, right?
Yes.
And so 80-20 goes back to ITW, first place I ever saw it. And I've hired a lot of people, and I found that it really works. At the end of the day, lean, you can take $1 million and throw it a nickel problem, and lean will solve it, but you solve the nickel problem, right? 80-20 is the tools, the processes that tell us what to aim at. It tells us where the money's at. And it tells you, then once you understand that, it starts helping you understand how to go get it. Lean will help you go get that. But without having something to aim at, then like talent, you got to have good people, and you got to have people who buy into the process. The talent's going to help you go do that. And strategy is nothing more as how do I deploy what the data told me to how to go do. So as I've gone through my career, I find people tend to fall into one of two buckets, right? So one is, I call it managerial improvement. I'm going to show you how to be a better person, how to be a better leader. There's no doubt that helps, but where the real changes happen, is the structural changes of the business. You got to operate the business better, right? So you can come out and learn to be a better leader. It's absolutely necessary. It's important, but you need to change something. And the reason we got the changes that we got at OTC is we looked at pricing differently. We reorganized the company and put it together. We started putting in the ERPs. Now, would I do the same thing in a different company? Of course not, right? But I have a tool set that will come in and not tell you the answers, but it will help you ask the right questions so you understand what to aim at. For us, as we went through the process, we realized there was three things we had to go do. The first was we had to get pricing under control, and not just pricing of products, but pricing of everything from our labor rates to our freight rates to our recoverable. I mean, it goes on and on, right? So pricing was number one. The second thing was what made us different. What did we offer that no one else did and our customers really valued? And it was service and repair, right? Then the third piece was we had to deploy 80-20 across it so we could understand where the profit pools were at that we could take and go then. And we needed a data-driven way to do it, not just someone's opinion. We wanted the critical few, not the trivial many. And many times when you're going through this, all of a sudden people go, well, we've got to go do this. Well, that may be interesting, but the data tells us it's not important, right? So data gives us something to rally around. So that became the three things that we decided we had to do. Different companies I've ran and been part of, we pick different things because it's what's important. One, for the time, and two, what the strengths of the company are.
That's really interesting to share. And I think it's important for leaders to hear this. And from a higher level perspective, looking at this, I think it's important, and I want to get your feedback, because like you said, you had 13 people that have worked for you that you've helped get to the CEO role themselves. Did they all, or I don't want to put words in your mouth. What is other than working with you, what is the common thread that you're seeing? Are they, And then where my mind is going is they perhaps created their own operating system. What are the common threads of those 13 people that have been put in the CEO role?
Yeah, absolutely. Right. So I think there's just a couple of things. So one is you got to want it, right? Because it's so funny, but it ain't as easy as it looks, right? And you got to want it. You got to want the travel. If that's what you need, you got to want the late hours. You got to want the making the big decision that may or may not work out. Right. And so you got to be willing to place a bet on yourself. Right. So that's one. The second one is you do need some kind of process, some kind of system that if you're going to walk in as the leader, I'm not talking about coming up through the ranks, but you're going to walk in what are you going to do day one? And then what are you going to do day two? How do you organize? There's some reason you're there. And unless the person who was leading it just retired because the great and glorious was there, you're there to fix or turn or grow something, right? They don't bring new people in because they're winning championships, or bring them in because they're not getting it across the finish line, right? So you need a process to go do it. So I would say all the people I've worked with, these same tools that I'm using today are the same tools I used 20 years ago, but they're more refined, right? And depending on when you were with me in that journey, depends on what they've learned and went on. I'm sure they've taken whatever they've got and improved it for themselves in their own situation.
Yeah.
But you got to have a process, and you got to be willing to share that and get people hopeful and excited that you can get them there.
Yeah, I feel like we don't. So we're on episode 180 or so, Lead the Team. We haven't really had an episode like this. And I'm excited about it because it kind of fills that gap. So like when I was at Honeywell, we had the HOS, but that was based on Jack Welch and a lot of stuff that GE was doing that Dave Cote brought over. And I do think that especially in these industrial manufacturing, distributions, these industries, it's so important for people to be thinking about that. And so say you've got someone listening today and maybe they're a mid-level leader. They have dreams of being CEO. So they check your first box. They want it. Okay. Or they think they want it. I guess you don't really know until you get there and you're doing it.
That's right.
But they're not really sure on the operating system piece of it. They don't have that formalized for themselves yet. What's a first step that you would recommend to them for beginning to create that self for themselves and their team?
Well, I think there's several things they can do. The first is, I think the key to my success is I'm a continuous learner, right? I don't have all the answers for sure, right? Every day I go, oh my God, look at that. I want to try that too, right? And I don't mean management by bestseller. I just mean continue to refine where you're at, continue to press and prove out your theories, whatever your hypothesis is. If you think you've got it figured out, you're probably losing. Right. It's things are going to come at you. And the thing I learned, so my first job I had that I was really successful at, when you're really successful, what they do is they promote you. Right. So I was successful. I got promoted. And I went and did the exact same thing on the second one. I almost bankrupt that company before I realized, wait a minute, it's a different situation. So it's like a carpenter. Every carpenter has the same tools. There's hammers and saws and nails and all this. But some of them build mansions, some of them build condos, some of them build outhouses, right? Whatever it is. So you got to know what you're aiming at, but you use those same tools. And the tools that we've all learned, if you've been around any type of the stuff I have, is Six Sigma or Lean or talent development and all that. It's how you use those tools once you understand what the heart you're doing. What's the game we're playing, right? What are we trying to do? And once you understand that, then all right, I've got a blueprint. I got to get a strategy. And then I can start deploying tools to achieve that blueprint. But if you think you're building a condo and the other guy over there thinks you're building a skyscraper, you're in trouble, right? So better get aligned.
Great metaphor there. Yeah, great metaphor. We have the same tools. And so as a leader, people listening, you're equipping them in your new book, right? That's coming out. It's a set of tools.
That's right. Correct? The book is called Profitable Growth on Demand. Take command of your business, right? And it's the tools. And so what I find is the data, it tells you exactly what you will get the data in your company. And I've ran all sorts of ones that have excellent visibility, have terrible visibility, but you really do actually have all the data you need, right? And you'll get that within a week, sometimes within hours, depending on the what your systems are. The next 6 months, you're going to argue over what the data means, but the data is obvious. You know where you're making money, you know where you're losing money, but everyone is going to have their own vision. Like they're going to say, no, you don't understand. This company is very important to us. I know they're not buying much, but they will, right? And all of these are nothing more than distractions, Ben. You have to get people to buy into where we're going. If it's you forcing it on them, forget about it. They'll say whatever you want.
No sacred cows at that moment.
No sacred cows. That's exactly right. And we work around what we call fair but not equal. Fair but not equal, right? Because people want to treat all their customers the same. In fact, it's a point of pride, and they will tell you stories about on that Friday night where they loaded a product in the back of their car and they drove across the country in a raging snowstorm to deliver. Well, guess what? Most likely that customer buys nothing from them. They've taken product that they could have sold at a much higher margin to a customer that loves them, and we know they love them because they buy from them and they pay their bills, and they've given it to them, right? It's amazing
and
how
they're burning themselves out
because
they drove all night.
They're proud of it. And they should be proud of what they do because they care. But you need something to decide between who is really important to you and who is not. You know, I tell this story about how do you decide between fair but not equal. And I always say about your spouse and your sibling. And if we have time, I'll be happy to tell you the story.
Tell me the story. You're really
all right. Are you married, Ben? Are you married?
Yes.
All right. Do you have a sibling, a brother or a sister?
Yes.
All right.
I've got a sister.
So it's your wife's, your partner's birthday. What are you going to get her?
It's my wife's birthday. Well, I'm going to get her this fancy birdhouse thing that she's been wanting.
Man, that's special because that means you know her well enough to know she likes a birdhouse and wants one. What else are you going to do?
We'll take her out.
Take her to dinner, maybe.
Take her out to dinner. Yeah.
Yeah, but flowers.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, flowers.
Probably you told the restaurant early. I don't want to put words in. You told her, and it comes and says "Happy Birthday" with a little candle on the cake. You know, if you go to a nice restaurant.
Absolutely.
Really nice.
Go all out.
Oh man, and she's going to love all that, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Now, do you have a brother or sister?
I have a sister.
Okay, it's your sister's birthday. What are you going to do for her?
I'm going to give her a call.
That's pretty good. That's better. I text my sister. I love her to death.
I might text then call.
Yeah. What else?
Probably send her a gift certificate to her favorite restaurant in Chicago.
Wow. You're a great brother. I just text. That's it. I go, if I get, I call, I go, hey, I love you. What's going on? So you're going to text your sister, probably call her, and maybe even send her a gift certificate, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now let's say, so for your wife, a fancy birdhouse, big dinner, you're there. It's not just a gift certificate, a little dessert at the end, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah.
Right. Your sister, a call or text, and a gift certificate. Now let's switch those. Let's say for your sister, you give her exactly what you gave for your wife. How's your sister going to feel about that?
She's going to be delighted and maybe a little weirded out.
Maybe a little weirded out, but she's going to take it. Right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's right. She's going to take, she'll be worried about you, but she's going to take it. Now, let's say you give your wife what you gave your sister.
Happy birthday. Yeah, I'll just call her on the phone. Even though she's in
Call
the
her on
same
the phone.
house, I'll just be like, hey, happy birthday.
Hey, honey, maybe do it from your studio because I'll make it special. Hey, honey, I'm on the air. Just a minute. Love you. Right. And all that. How's she going to feel about that?
She's not going to be as happy about that. She'll
not going to be happy at all.
Yeah.
Not going to be happy at all. You do that enough, we get to this terrible thing known as divorce, right? Because she's got options. Guys like you and I, we don't have many options, but our
That's
spouses,
correct. That's correct.
We married above ourselves. They have options. She can go somewhere else. Okay. Now, you give your wife what you give her. You give your sister what you give her. Is it fair what each of them gets?
Is it fair?
Yeah, your wife gets more than your sister. Is it fair?
No, it's not fair from that standpoint.
No, it's 100% fair. Your wife is your wife, the most important woman in your whole life. It's fair she gets more.
Oh, yeah. Oh, is that? Yes. I thought you meant in the reverse scenario. No, you're right. Yes.
It's fair. She deserves it. Your sister gets same thing. But is it equal? No, it's fair, but not equal. Now let's turn that to a customer. Your A customers are your spouses, and your B customers or your sisters, right? We care about both, but it's not equal. You have to treat them differently. You have to treat them different. If you treat them all the same, well, there's not enough hours in the day. There's not enough money in the bank to give them all the same thing. You can't. You absolutely can't. So you start with that. Now, in our spouses, our A customers, how do we know they're our A customers?
Right. Profitability standpoint, longevity standpoint.
They buy a lot.
Yeah.
Right. Second thing, they pay their bills.
Pay their bills. Yep.
Yeah. So they buy a lot. They pay their bills. We know they like us because they do that. If they didn't like us, they wouldn't do it. Yeah. How do we know who our B customers are?
They buy a little less.
They buy a whole lot less typically, right? And a lot of times those are the ones that don't pay their bills as well.
Don't pay their bills. Maybe they're inconsistent in their ordering. They order some and they wait months and can't build a business upon that per se. Yeah.
It takes about a second to figure that out. You can look and understand. Most people can tell you right off the bat who their spouses are, who their big customers are. They might not be exactly correct, but they're going to be directionally spot on. And you'll find the big ones do pay their bills because they have to, right? Because you're important to them and they're important to you. If you treat them like you treat a B customer, they're going to leave you, right? And if you treat a B customer like an A customer, nothing changes. Your sister does not become your wife. She's still your sister. Don't think about that. That's a bad thought. So, but she does not become your wife.
Well,
right? She's still just who she is. So the B's are the B's, the A's are the A's. Once you accept that and you have the data to prove it, now you got to figure out what you're going to go do.
It's so important. Yeah. I mean, you're really keying in on profitability and the 80-20 rule, Pareto principle, so well communicated. And for the listeners, I mean, Bill just gave some great examples here. But also as a leader, what Bill's doing is you're making a very high level business idea understandable to everybody.
That's right.
I think great leaders, they cast a vision, they understand the business, but they often don't take the time to make that connection to where someone on the cleaning staff to the sales team to the president of a business unit can all understand it equally. And I think you just gave us a great example of that. And so I encourage the listeners today to be thinking about that. When you have your operating system, you've got your vision, you've also got to take the time to think about a great way to communicate it where people won't forget it. And I won't forget that. Bill, what's your parting thought for our listeners today?
Just a couple of things. So one, we've gone through a terrible time out there. The last 2 years have been tremendous. Nothing I've ever experienced. Be kind to each other. You don't know what people are going through, right? But just because we're going through tough times does not mean we cannot be successful. I think our best days are ahead of us. I think we're going to be, we have the greatest opportunity in this country that anyone can have. We are truly standing on shoulders of giants, right? I can't wait to see what comes next.
All right. I love the optimism. Go out and make it happen, y'all. Thanks, Bill.
Thank you, Ben.